Welcome to Wednesday afternoon and your favorite show, Catalog and Cocktails, where we get to bring our favorite beverage and talk about data. I'm Tim Gasper, a Director of Product and Data Nerd over at data.world, and also joined by my co-host, Juan.
Hey, Tim, how are you doing? How's everything going today?
Doing pretty good.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah, how are you?
Cool. Well, I'm excited because two things. One, we got Stewart in our chat today.
That's very kind.
And Stewart's a cool guy. And
Welcome,
second,
Stewart. We're excited to have you.
A new drink.
Thanks.
I got a new drink I finally got. So it's called Carajillo. So it is liquor of 34 or 43. I don't know. It's a Spanish liquor and coffee. So you have like an espresso on top. It's a very typical Mexican drink, and it looks actually very pretty. So how are you doing, Stewart? You want to quickly introduce yourself?
Okay on this fine afternoon. Ready to talk some data.
Yeah. So, well, Stewart's our director of sales engineering at data.world. And the cool thing about Stewart is that he's had a lot of experience in data management and data catalogs with different vendors and working with different people. And it's just, we just started talking the other day about, well, okay, like if you're in the sales, if you're like, you're either in the sales process, but you're also kind of on the customer side, it's like, wait, I need to get a data catalog. I need to go do stuff with my data. And I'm in the middle of all this stuff. Like people are pushing me, pulling me. I'm talking to the IT technical folks, I'm talking to the business folks. It's like, how do I do this? What does success look like, and how do I accomplish success? So I think that's kind of the topic of discussion here. So that's where we are. So glad to see a lot of friendly faces and new faces too. So hopefully you all stick around for the whole chat and stay around for the happy hour too.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're really on it from a recipe standpoint today. All three of us have got some sort of a fancy beverage going on.
We do.
What's yours, Tim?
I've got a Midsummer Spritz, very fresh. It's a Midsummer Solstice gin with some elderflower, some lemon, and some soda.
Fancy.
I feel so fancy.
How about you, Stewart?
I did a good Corona cabinet digging here. This is a little bit of a nice bottle of Pisco that my relatives brought from Peru. My in-laws, to be specific, with some lime juice, some soda water. So it's somewhere between a Pisco sour and what they call a Pisco, what they call a Chilcano. Either way, it's lovely for the afternoon.
Yeah,
right.
And it's something I was just reminded that we're on Spotify now. Like, so all the episodes of Catalog and Cocktails, the first 30 minutes that we record them, you can now listen to them on Spotify. All the past recordings are there. So here's a quick link over there. So if you want to, for new folks, you can go listen to the past episodes and just kind of hear all the discussions we've had. And I'm really excited about this. So every conversation going forward will because we're recording them, will be on Spotify. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so
I'm super excited about that because although we've got some good regulars here, and thanks folks for coming in sort of week in, week out and joining us. We know you can't always make it, so sometimes it's nice to have it, in your iTunes backlog or your Spotify backlog. So we want to make sure you got some other ways to access the content.
Anyway, so let's start this conversation. I mean, just in the past, we've talked again about personas. We've talked about different features that a data catalog should have, like lineage. We've been talking about governance. We've talked about the knowledge graph. But I think now the interesting conversation is, how do I champion a data catalog initiative, a new data management initiative within an organization? How do you champion that? So I think that's kind of the conversation you want to go in. What are your tips, Stewart? We've discussed this type of stuff before. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind about this? I got mine. I want to hear yours.
Sure. So I guess the big thing for me is this is like anything else, is about change management, right? These data activities are often some of the first major new things that these organizations are really asking the people involved in these projects to do in a long time, meaning new ways to think, new ways to behave. And as we know, at a lot of companies, especially it seems like the larger the company, the harder it is to steer the boat kind of in new directions, right? So getting people to take on, new behaviors is really sometimes akin to, I was joking earlier, sometimes akin to, putting a man on the moon. Like that's how comfortable it is for organizations to be like, we're gonna do this whole new thing with data. No, not just IT, but us also on the business side. And yeah, we'll do it together. We won't just like talk about each other behind our backs. We will actually do that together and exercise some new muscles. And that, what my first one that I love to say is that moonshot, right? If you're going to put a man on the moon, you better pick good astronauts to go with you. So if you're the person leading the charge on a data, so what do we think about, going to the moon? You need people who want to go to the moon. You need people who have the guts to go to the moon, who know the risks inherent in trying this, and who really see that it would be awesome to do. Right? Like at the beginning, you really have got to find strong allies. And that usually means a business unit with a use case and a set of people of the mindset to go try something new, to be tolerant of the first iterations of what you do and to get there. So certainly that's one of my biggest things is to start to assemble that coalition and really figure out, because it may not be who you think needs it the most. It may not be who you or the end product that you really want to get to the most, but you really need to first get boots on the ground on that moon, and you need some people to go with you, right? I mean, I think that is what I see over and over and over again in that regard.
How do you deal with the people who think they think they're astronauts, but you're like, you're really not an astronaut, or wait, let's wait for Apollo 25.
If they think they're an astronaut, I will take it. I will go fully with that. Because again, this is about, human psychology a bit. You're doing the right things. Your organization is going to move in these data directions, whether it happens sooner or later, it is happening, right? So, I mean, this world is going in that direction. And I think the kinds of people that we are and the people on this call really understand that that's just inevitable. It's like gravity. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, flipping it around, then what do you do with the folks who believe that going to the moon is impossible, like the naysayers or something?
Well, don't join, again, they should not be your first movers. You want your first movers to be flexible in mind and really open to the adventure of trying this and to potentially the winning of doing it. So again, I like to think in terms of, another point I'm talking about is kind of carrots and sticks, right? Maybe it's a little bit indelicate. That's how you motivate maybe a donkey to move, traditionally is with a carrot or with a stick, right? So when you think about carrots and sticks, right, it's either like, hey, you can look really good, or you can get something for coming with me first, is you will actually, because this is going to take off and your use case will be the one, and you will look really cool and forward thinking when you do that. Or you will stop having to use that spreadsheet you've been using or any of the other things that are carrots to say, here's your incentive to go along. So really looking at these key people, and again, hopefully it's not 100, hopefully it's 5 or 12, but 5 that maybe control that 12, hopefully, or will lead them to it. Looking at what they can get from it. Or, the stick is really saying, getting management to buy in. It's really getting your organization to say, I agree with you, this is the future, and you guys need to comply and go with it, right? And we really have seen all different flavors of this. Sometimes the top gets it first. They really understand that, like, if they don't, that their data is a massively powerful asset, and they need to start instilling these new behaviors. And so they will give you that top-down air cover to say what we're going to do. And then you've got, then the ground level kind of getting people motivated by what you discover will be interesting to them. So either hopefully that natural alignment, or you can unearth that through talking to them.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. And I love the analogies that you're using here, because I think it helps to simplify what sometimes can be very, complex political environment, or, a place where initiatives have to go through a lot of hoops. I'm kind of curious, when you think of something like that astronaut analogy, how do you know who the right sort of lead astronaut is? You know, who is the one who is sort of your mission leader? You know, is it on the business side? Is it on the technical side? I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are there.
So in data, it's always a coalition, right? Because you're not going to get especially with catalogs, right? You're not going to get the integrations unless the technical folks come along. So you can't really get that accurate, up-to-date picture of your technology landscape without the help of some people that can plug you in. And then you need to serve a business end. So you need a business leader on your other side who is saying like, okay, we're just not going to go through this. I'm not going to have my main guy answer the same phone call 4 times a week for the same data. We have to go through the same rigmarole, right? We hear these things over and over and over again. So those are really what I'd be looking for. And then it's thinking about also people's careers. Because again, data is also currently in the marketplace acting in a very transformative way for people's careers. Because again, if you're, marketing departments are pretty well structured in today's day and age, or IT departments or whatever that case may be. So the routes up and through are usually pretty well defined. And as you mentioned, maybe fairly political, or you're waiting literally till somebody leaves for a spot to open up, right? Whereas data can drive new groups, new teams, new initiatives, exciting new things. And that really is, so you want to look for people who are also kind of ambitious to be thinking in that regard and not thinking about, of course, anytime there's ambition available, there's risk, right? If you're going to do something that has impact on the organization, it's going to carry risk that you don't hit the moon, okay? That you end up hurtling through outer space. That would, but knowing that, I mean, again, I think this is fully achievable stuff. It's not quite the stakes I make it sound like, but that's, I think that's what I would think about. It's like, who's ambitious to go with me on those two fronts? But you really will always need a coalition. And again, if you can get a leader within your company who carries enough clout to give you that air cover to accomplish your first either pilot or whatever that is, that's really important.
So I'm connecting this to a lot of the conversation we've had before on the personas. So you're talking about like the way to be successful is that we need to be able to go, as mentioned, like talk to the business and go find the champions there, talk to the IT, get the champions there. This is like, who is this person? This is what we're calling this data product manager, right? This is like that persona who is going to be talking on both sides of the aisle. So, I mean, we've been pushing or thinking about this, like this role of data product manager, the knowledge scientist, all this stuff. Is that, I wonder, right? Does that go hand in hand with a successful kind of data catalog initiative that you're having, right? Is the champion who's pushing this within the organization and going to be successful at that, and who's organizing the team to go to the moon, is that really the data product manager? And they just don't know that that's the real role that they have.
Well, I think a lot of times the hardest thing you could do at a company is ask for a new role to exist. So I think sometimes you have to get the success from. So
yeah, I agree.
To IT.
So I'm not saying that we should go create this role or whatever, but I think it's like organically, it's like the people who are having success at this, they're actually, like, if you think about it, what they're actually doing, what are their roles and responsibilities, is like, you're really doing this data product management that we're talking about, right? I don't know, that's how I'm perceiving it.
But what's interesting is because there's not a lot, if you're not a software company, you don't have a lot of product management kind of function, right, that you're talking about, which is that you've really identified the intersection of where additional software can help us achieve meaningful business outcomes by enabling people, right? That's, Tim, I'm riffing on product managers. I think that's a fair, safe analogy there of what product managers do. And so I agree, but I think sometimes the fluency inside of, again, the business unit that's just suffering. So again, it's going to start organically, but yes, I agree. That's kind of the mindset that you want to take on, even if, again, if you're not on the tech side. Sometimes a lot of the people that we really interact with in today's day and age are going to be the liaisons, right? They're either on the business side, but they really have an affinity for what's going on with data and the technical side, or they really see a way that the world could be better or should be better, or they're on the technical side and they're trying to kind of bring the business forward into the future, even though, again, that might require some change management. It's usually somebody close to those borderlands that is going to be the person that's taking it on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point, and I think that's where it ties a lot to product management. And don't worry, you were doing product management good justice there. And you know, I think that liaison person, when you think about product management, a lot of times maybe they're more engineering or technical oriented, but they have the ability to bridge into the business side, right? Or they have the, you know, that business acumen. Maybe they come from more of the marketing or the sales side, and they can bridge into that technical side, right? You know, agreed. I think a lot of times, you know, that idea doesn't exist explicitly in these different companies, but people who are willing to put that hat on and reach out to different parts of the organization seem to be better astronauts and maybe even better lead astronauts.
Yeah, I think these identifying these types of people within the organization, my bet is that if we look at them, they're going to be this data product manager. I mean, that's that's really my bet. When I think about it, the way we've been doing enterprise data integration has just been the same old way with the same people, and we really need to structure things differently. And I think this is the key difference. We all talk about we need to go talk with both sides of business, but how do you actually do this? I think it's part of like let's actually bring up let's set up this role, and I think once we do this I mean, it'll come out organically. I think that I see that's my bet how this is going to start kind of moving forward. And then now there's another thing that I was thinking about is how do we avoid, again, my comment all the time is let's not boil the ocean. Like how do we start small, do pilots that we can actually achieve, be successful at it, but also balancing everybody wants to, I need to see everything. I need to get all the data into whatever, right? Like this whole balance is like, yes, you do need to, but at the same time you don't, like, and because that seems to be like the big rock in your shoe.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I like the idea of the pilot that is truly what that is meant to mean, a pilot. That's why I said astronauts and not find the right Red Army, right? Like you're not trying to bring everybody all at once. You will end up at some watered down loss of what that could truly mean. So with a pilot, and again, this is where the coalition matters, or at least thinking like one does. Because if you are overly biased on tech, what you will do is something really interesting technically that will not resonate with the business. If you're over biased on the business side, you will do something, you know, you'll kind of run aground trying to make it look real world, and you will get kind of pegged 1,000 times by is this really feasible at scale and all of those things. So what you want to do is really come to an outcome, again, an achievable outcome in a rational amount of time where everybody's not going to get pulled on to the next fire sale project. So you need to have something you can deliver in a quarter or something like that so that you can really, again, time is everything.
It's associated to the business value. I mean, that's the key thing is that you're talking to the right people who have that key pain point that you want to go show. Either it's something that we have not been able to do before and we finally got it done, or it's something that we can do it today and we can measure the cost of it. And now we are able to go do that much better, faster, whatever. And we can measure the cost and see the difference. Like, oh, wow, we've got this better. We did improve, right? And then we need to be data driven too we must be data driven too on how we're measuring success. Not just, that seemed good.
Right, I call it obvious, right? It needs to be obviously beneficial because, again, even the astronauts that you get on your initial pilot team, it has to have some obvious value even beyond them so that you have that show pony to trot around the office and say, look what we've done. Wouldn't you like to get involved, right?
Everybody loves ponies, right? Everybody loves ponies.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, we got donkeys and ponies and all kinds of fun stuff in this session. You know, it's one of those like infomercials, like, wouldn't you too like to have a life like this? Like that's a little bit of what you need and where I've seen people be successful. I mean, even just saying, you know, we just have a searchable place now that is one place rather than this SharePoint site, this shared drive, this document, this person that knows everything that happened before 1999, you know, whatever those things are, to really bring that into a central place and to start to think like we need a town square to look at this, talk about this, engage with this. That is really the key moment. So you need something that makes that obvious to go, ooh, well, what if I don't like their definition? You go, That's a great point. Why don't we go ahead and just type a quick comment there, or push a button to give feedback, and then, or to suggest a change, and then we'll go from there, right? You're not emailing 20 people. It's not another message, you know, in Slack or Teams or something. Like, it is happening in real time. And just that first visual will really start to give a tangible thing for you to champion, to say, I did A was possible. We achieved it. We landed on the moon. It's a good Jim Carrey line. You know, you can say we landed on the moon, and then you could say, now here's what else I would want to, you know, here's what else we can tackle with a little more focus, research,
yeah,
you know, things like that.
Now let's go to Mars or whatever, right? We can set our sights somewhere else. How far can we take this analogy?
I love it.
You know, I really love where this is going, and you know, one of the things that makes me think about and realize is that, like, you know, I think when we think about champions, sometimes we think of them as sort of the process leading up to kind of selecting a vendor, right? But a lot of times that pilot process and actually starting to do your first use case, you're still on your journey, right? You know, maybe you've gotten enough sort of folks internally interested, and you've got some budget and things like that to do that pilot. But now it's like, okay, let me go end to end with business value, and let's start to do that roadshow now, where we can go to different business units, we can go to different groups, we can show stewards what their experience is going to be. We're going to show sort of the end users, the analysts, what their experience is going to be. You know, is that just as critical to that sort of that championing process, and does it really kind of have to continue all the way through that until, you know, forever? You know, like I don't think there's ever a point where with your data catalog you're like, okay, we're done. We've solved the data problems. There's nothing else now for us to do, right?
No, what you hope that evolves into, I think you're really right, Tim, is that
Star Trek
is like yes, galaxy far away. What it evolves into is like it's kind of a center for excellence, right, Tim? Kind of naturally, now as you do this roadshow, you're this center for excellence, and then maybe you're planting seeds. I'm not going to take any other planetary metaphors. You're planting seeds, right, for other maybe smaller departmental centers of excellence. Because again, data catalogs don't require like 1,000 people in there every second of every day, right? If you're doing them correctly, if you're setting them up for success, you know, the focus kind of really moves around, right? It's kind of like why we have a timeline feed, right? So because data really happens in these, the focus is shifted to how are we responding to COVID, and what data do we have around that, and how is that affecting our orders, or how is that affecting our costs, or whatever, or our supply chain. And so data really moves like a spotlight around your organization. It's not this linear boil the ocean path, right? So again, you shouldn't be having to update. Once you get control and some consensus and some visibility to these things, you shouldn't have to be tending to it every single day. I think people get that stuck in their minds. It's really, there's a lift effort, and then there's a steady state effort, and those have very different dimensions once you've stood up the catalog. So I do think it is, Tim, back to your point, a journey where you start with just trying to figure out the intersection of what I want versus what's possible, versus with how much money, cooperation, carrots, sticks that I have available to me. And then you really want to kind of lay out that game plan to say, okay, we can make this achievable milestone. I will take that to these other teams. And again, I know it sounds almost like a big scheme, but really that's again, to create change within cultures, to ask people to do new things at work. It's like one of the hardest things on earth. New things at work. You really have to be thoughtful about how you do this. So if you're like, hey, I am technical and I buy this and I love it, but I'm not good at culture. Like, I'm not a political animal. I don't understand what these teams are even thinking about half the time. Then, you know, part of your coalition is going to need to be somebody who understands how to navigate those channels.
I really like this idea where you say like a center of excellence.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I've been socializing this with a lot of people, and think about it. You want to have things that are centralized, and you want to have things that are decentralized. And I think in a center of excellence is where you want to kind of like centralize your key core metadata, the most important stuff that we're going to go use or we're going to search for, right? And then at some point there's a long tail, and all that stuff will be completely decentralized. Yeah. And then things start changing. You start tracking down, oh, look, this other new thing is starts to get used. And then that gets boiled up to become part of the core metadata, right? I mean, I've always mentioned, it's like, if nobody should ever redefine in their schema what is a first name or a last name or an email, right? That should be well defined, period. And we should ideally get it was exactly once, and then somebody else is going to create a new application. They have to go create, well, they're going to go reuse that metadata, create that schema. Or there's an existing legacy system that I want my data to be used within the organization. Well, guess what? The best way to go use it is map your data to the core metadata model that we have. And obviously you're the owner of the data. You're the best person to go create that mapping. So you don't want to go in a centralized way. We're the central organization that does all the data integration. No, you want to distribute that. But what you do want to centralize is like the core metadata that's really important. And so I like this idea like of a center of excellence of data.
Just to build on your point, Juan, you know, what I really think about it is like kind of moving the capabilities within your organization. So you start off as like, you will need data.world to partner with you, to explain to you how the best practices that we know and have learned over the years of setting up exactly how you want to structure this catalog. And then eventually, hopefully that initial team starts to take on that. So as you have a center of excellence now, that's actually your first line of response, is that people are calling your center of excellence as you disperse the capability, right? They're calling internally to say, and that way that team is also collecting the knowledge and gaining their own footing to say, well, guess what? Here's how we helped the last team. So internally it plays very much the same way. And that really allows you to kind of grow that capability without you having to be, you know, vendor reliant and things like that, that people, you know, of course. And then when you say, ooh, we have a whole new use case, well, now let's engage our partners at data.world again and let them come in and say, ooh, that's an interesting one. Let's talk about how we tackle that challenge, right? So it's really just moving the expertise as you learn, right? From a maybe we do it at first to then we are partnering doing to then you're doing and just calling us for what you need, right? And that's a really powerful way to kind of, again, advance the maturity of your organization.
Yeah, well, and it feels like it fits in with the whole not boiling the ocean approach because, you know, I think this ties very closely also to like data literacy as well. When like people think about data literacy, it always feels so daunting because there's so much of the organization that they're trying to convert and get sort of looped into this process and looped into this know-how. And if you can think of it a little bit more like, hey, we're going to train, you know, these people, we're going to enable these people, and then they're going to become the experts. They're going to become on the inside loop of this, and then they're going to train the next set of people. You start to think about more how you can be iterative with sort of not just your data catalog, but maybe, you know, governance more general. I know that, you know, when we start to think about agile governance as a concept at data.world, and we've been posting some more blog posts and things about that topic lately, we've been thinking about what are these loops that you can form, right? Where it stops looking like a waterfall. It stops looking like, hey, governance is like a line from A to B. That actually, no, it's actually a loop. It's a process that is constantly refining on itself. And ideally, you're building that knowledge and you're building that capability up and up and up.
Yep, I completely agree. And again, the reason we love that agility piece also is because to get this wheel really rolling, you want that barrier to entry at the beginning to be really low, right? Yeah. So one of the common mistakes I've seen is people are like, let's make this form-based. That'll make it easy. We'll make it a worksheet and they will just fill it out exactly how we want. And the first thing that people do is start complaining that you don't have part of that worksheet or part of that form for them. So then you know, what you really want this to be is conversational. You want to say, have you done any defining of data? Okay, let's just bring that in as it is, as simple as we can. Even if we put it all in a
transparent about what we have.
Because as soon as you get to transparency, you have tangible things for your, you know, it starts to populate the town a little bit. So you can start to look at what you have. It starts to go, whoa, 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 you guys also have a definition of that data and you have your own view that has different data. And am I supposed to use that data or that data? Like those are the conversations you want. Then you start governing.
Yeah, and people think that you can only start once you have a clean definition. Like we can't release this. And it's like, no, let's actually get this out because guess what? We thought there were 3, but when we put people together, we actually have 7. And it's a good thing that we found out about the 7 definitions. And then we get people talking together about this, right? So there's this whole notion is like, oh, we got to keep it all guarded and we can't get people into it. It's like, no, we got to go change this. And I'm seeing Juan Carlos here asking questions. The topic I see him is data culture. Like, how do we change the culture of data? And I think this is actually culture. It's, oh, no, I'm protective of my data. I can't release it. I'll release it once it's perfect, right? And well, it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to release it.
That's
and
a huge barrier. I agree.
Yeah, and this ties back to product management again, right? Because like you can learn Scrum, you can learn how to do these processes, but in the end, if you're always scared of shipping code, you're never going to be agile, right? You have to ship it.
So you really have to have, I mean, it's agile, we call agile data governance. Ultimately, it's like agile data management, the same way we do software engineering that way. But I mean, I think that's the point of view that I think we all agree that, at least that's our point of view here, is that we really need to be agile about things. I told you, Stewart, that 30 minutes is going to go by so fast, right? That's it. So, but I just want to kind of a couple of things to wrap up, or just to summarize, like the whole astronaut analogy, right? You want to bring the best astronauts, the best people. We're going to the moon. So you want to go find those astronauts, people who want to be astronauts, who understand the risk, who want to go to the moon with you. You talked about the carrots and the sticks, right? Go make rewards and maybe a stick, like it's top down to go do that. You talked about careers, like this is going to impact people's careers. I really like this thing about the center of excellence that came out. I think that's a really, really good idea. Any other final takeaways?
Been a really good discussion. I encourage everyone to keep up a good fight. It's not always easy. And some cultures are more easily malleable than others, but it's worthwhile because, like we said, this is where the world is going. Data is ruling the world already, and you can't do something different unless you try. Unless you really try to think differently about it. So, good luck everyone out there.
Well, hopefully everybody will stick around for the happy hour, and thanks, Stewart, for being here today. I enjoyed the discussion.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, thanks, Stewart.